Obina, Papa Obina, Papa Obina, Papa Obina, you will kill me today. Hi guys, welcome back to
our channel. Welcome back to our channel.
Welcome back.
So today we are talking about something that is so common in many marriages and relationships, and it is the topic of how do we handle fights, how do we handle conflict, how do we handle quarrels within the married relationship.
Yes, so I think that is a very important topic because it happens in every relationship. You know, I think a lot of us enter into marriage thinking that we won't have these quarrels and these disagreements, but they would come. It's as much as you're guaranteed a spouse, those disagreements are bound to come. They're about to emerge somewhere in your relationship. So handling it is something that we were not trained to handle. We were not really there's this blanket way people try to talk about, oh, when you have a disagreement, oh, just pray about it, you know, but the practical steps of handling it, you know, and I think there are different levels of dissatisfaction or when you're upset, you know. It can go from 0 all the way to 60 in 5 seconds, you know. So what are the practical ways that you feel would work for people to sort of handle their disagreements, which are actually bound to come?
I think the starting point is to decide what is this conflict that comes into a relationship and what is the source of the conflict, because people quarrel or have conflict for different reasons, and I think knowing those different reasons helps you to start understanding how you can approach each situation. For example, you know, you are quarreling about hygiene within the house, right? It can seem like something so small, but it needs to be resolved in a way that satisfies the other person.
Both parties.
Cleaning up in the sink, you know, how do you do it? There's a certain way that things needed to be done, and you know, as guys, you know, you just do everything quickly, and you know, especially when there are now children involved, I think there's a need for somebody to have more of a duty of care.
Yes.
So being able to listen to your spouse and hear what they're saying and not really take it for granted, I think it goes a long way in starting to resolve that issue.
Disagreements are part of life. I think even when we're growing up, when we lived with our parents, we always had situations where either your mom or your dad is not happy with you and you get reprimanded, so to speak. But when you now get into adulthood, you know, that reprimanding or being reprimanded is sort of frowned upon, especially when you become your own boss or your own man or your own woman. You know, that's why sometimes you find that people are now acting out of control because there's really no one to do the smacking. You know, and when I say smacking, I don't mean physically smacking the person, but reprimanding that person. So it's important to find that humility where we are attuned, or we attune our ears to hearing that constructive feedback. The scenario you just said now is on the lighter note. I'll say on the lighter note because yes, it can escalate. I've heard of people who have divorced because a toothpaste was not being pushed from the bottle, you know, but those are the lighter ones where it has to do with maybe domestic and you're coming together and living together practically every day as man and woman.
Yeah.
You know, but we also have bigger issues that come up where, you know, call it from infidelity to financial infidelity. You have situations where, you know, there's a certain level of betrayal, or someone has, you know, done something that is not part and parcel of the contractual obligations of both parties, or your love agreement, or, you know, something has happened, which is like an event in the relationship, you know. Handling those periods is very crucial to the health of the relationship. You have to find a way where you handle it without damaging yourself first, damaging your spouse, and then damaging the environment, which involves your children and even, you know, relatives that could be living with you guys. When these big events come, how do you handle it? Because one thing is for these events to come, another thing is for someone to feel they're like repetitive and they become a fixture in the marriage, where you now start not exploring different ideologies to sort it out. You just feel like this person is like this, you know, and then there's a sense of hopelessness that comes with that, which drowns out any form of creativity you might have, or even reaching out to God in trying to find clarity on how to cross that bridge, you know. So what are some practical ways that, you know, we'll still touch on the lighter things, but the big events, you know, where something has happened in a relationship or in a marriage, how do you practically ride the storm, bearing in mind that sometimes those things happening is a red flag for you to exit from that situation, and also sometimes it's also like a sign for you to work on certain areas of the relationship, and the difference between the two is the discernment of the spirit.
That's it. I mean, I remember there's a marriage counseling session we went for, which talked about the 3 C's of conflict resolution. It was complaint, criticism, and contempt, right? And those 3 are 3 different levels of, if somebody is complaining about something light, we've just talked about that, but when it comes to constructive criticism, or something that is criticism of behavior that is not acceptable within the married relationship, and somebody is definitely not happy about that thing, how do you handle it? I think the first thing is one needs to listen to what the person is saying for understanding. If you listen to understand, then you hear what the person is saying, but you also dig deep and try to understand, where is this coming from? Because a lot of the time, my wife always says something, that I might be saying something, but there's a deeper meaning to what I'm saying. For example, you might say that I'm not happy with this thing, but that not being happy with this thing is stemming from another deeper rooted issue, maybe trust that was lost, you know, many months ago, many years ago, and there has been a trigger in that particular situation that has caused her to relive that moment, and it's not just that current situation that is being addressed, but you're also needing to address what's in the deeper side of the conversation. I think the way to handle this is to first listen to what the person is saying, and then ask questions which can help you to let the person open up and share what they're feeling. I think that's one of the things that you mentioned. Sometimes when you say certain things, tell me how you are feeling about it. So if somebody's complaining about something, or is saying constructive criticism about something, you can ask them that, how do you feel about this thing? And once you start hearing someone saying, you know what, I felt betrayed, I felt like trust has been lost, I felt abandoned, I felt lonely, then you start really understanding the kind of emotions that they're going through that have led them to that point where they are now talking about and vocalizing this thing. And it helps you to have an understanding, so that by the time you start coming up with steps to try and fix it, there are certain things that will not fix it. And I think we've had so many situations where I do something and then I'll be saying sorry. The sorry might not be enough to solve the issue, but there's an action that's required from me to be able to show a contrition, to be able to show a change in a pattern of behavior that will satisfy that, oh, you know what, I think this guy got what I was saying, understood what I was saying, and therefore we are on a path to some sort of healing and recovery. And moving forward.
The issue with this thing we're talking about, we're making it make sense, right? It's sounding like A equals to B, B equals to C, and D. You know, we're making it sound like it's like a manual, step 1, step 2, step 3. But in life, to be honest, it's not always so easy for you to just say, okay, these are the ways to. I've had people tell me that they have, I mean, we've had situations where we felt like we were not being heard by one another, and we've had repetitive patterns of behavior that kept coming up in our relationship that led to us not feeling that deep level of connection, right? Some people don't listen. I've had people tell me that, oh, this thing you're saying makes sense on paper. It makes sense the way you're saying it, but some people are dealing with spouses that do not listen, you know, and we've had situations where people have actually divorced because they could not resolve some of these issues that were happening. When you feel like your spouse is not listening, or you guys are not on the same table, on the same team, you just get hopeless. Like, okay, this person is not listening. Because I'll give you an example. A lady was telling me about a situation where, because I was saying, okay, why don't you listen to some content with your partner, like listen, like we used to do that a lot, where the videos will not help you like that. They would help to remind you, but the work, you still need to do the work.
You need to do the work.
You still need to go dig deep into that character flaw or into that behavior that the person is complaining about, and do the work of actually bringing it out and working on yourself, right? So the videos will just help to sort of guide you. It will help to remind you. It will help to give you hope, because some people feel like they can't even change, right? But she said to me that the videos would not even work. So that's like you're already eradicating step 0 before you even get to step 1. That the videos will not work. This person doesn't listen, right? So when you have such a difficult spouse, again, we've always said this, if anything has to do with violence, we just basically come to share some of the issues we went through and how we were able to navigate through it, and we're still going through we're still work in progress. So we're not trying to give you this unrealistic phenomenon like the fact that we're coming on camera. We quarreled when did we quarrel? This morning. Was it this morning? No, yesterday. So the quarreling is, for us,
it will come.
It comes, and it's not like we celebrate it, but it comes, but when it comes, I think these things, these pillars are very important. When it comes, I think the first thing you need to do is to take time out. It doesn't have to be dramatic where you have to go somewhere. No. Take time alone to yourself and think about the events that happened, right? Even if you feel you are not at fault, because some people don't want to agree that they are at fault, right? Even if you feel your own is 20%,
accountability.
Take accountability for that 20% that you did. And then when tempers have reduced, come together and discuss, not necessarily in just apologizing. You need to let the person know why your 20% was there in the first place, why you reacted that way, what led to you reacting that way, and how you felt.
I think one of the biggest challenges we faced during the marriage conflict is that, when we do have that quarrel, how do you get back to a point of conversation, right? And I always found it difficult because of pride and coming back to your point that some people don't listen. Some people don't want to hear. Some people don't want to understand. They actually, when they're listening to counteract.
So some people are listening to argue. They're listening to...
So you're not hearing what the person is saying. So it actually says that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you should listen twice as much as you speak. And one thing we need to understand is that conflict resolution is a skill that everyone needs.
But we don't get training for that. That's the thing. It's like you are learning on the job.
So, just like even if you're looking at customer service, you have an irate client or whatever it is, there are steps that you're supposed to take. So, as she said, the first thing is that you need to be able to take a step back, let tempers go down, and then do a self-reflection that takes your own part of it. Okay, what happened? What did I say that could have contributed to flaring up of behavior? Because remember, hurt people hurt people. And when you're hurt, and either party can be hurt by anything, it can be by words, it can be by actions, it can be by situations, but when you're hurt, it's easy to just say something that is out of order. But when you reflect back and you take your accountability and you're able to come back to your spouse and say, hey, you know what, I'm sorry for my part in this conflict. I didn't like A, B, C, D, or I'd like to hear what made you feel a certain way. In some cases, someone will listen and say what they're feeling. In other cases, they can even block you off. There's a lot of practical things that, you can't even figure out all the different scenarios. Stonewalling is one of them.
Silent treatment.
Silent treatment is one of them. So these things will keep coming up in conflicts, and somebody is trying to...
Especially when you're dealing with Africa, like, I'm not trying to put African men down, but we have a lot of situations where that traditional upbringing, that cultural upbringing, some of them don't want to hear a woman talk. If the woman say, uncle, I don't like as you do this thing, how dare you? Some people are living with people that they cannot see. If you have a friend and you cannot tell your friend the truth, then that is already a fake friendship.
It's not a true friendship.
It's not a true friendship. Some people have created a world or an alter ego of a kind of world where they don't get that constructive criticism. They don't want to hear their spouse complain about anything about them. And is it that you are not a perfect person? If we all agree we're not perfect, then the step by step, I don't like what you did, or I don't like what you said, or I don't like how you made me feel. These are things that we should be able to approach. If we can approach the Father, if we can approach God, in anything we're feeling, we should be able to approach our spouses to say, this thing that you did, I liked it, or this thing that you did, I don't like it. But some people are living in a silenced atmosphere where their voice, they have held them on the neck. In fact, the one way Mandela do for Robben Island, they don't reach their own. They are in a prison called a relationship. And my heart goes out to people, men and women.
It's both ways. It's both ways.
My heart goes out to people that are in situations like that, because I think one of the things that we should never lose is our voice. No matter your status in life, you should be able to speak your mind, speak your heart. Even if you find that, okay, maybe you don't want to trigger the person, you have to find a way of communication within the marriage. If not, you are just, it's like sitting on gunpowder. The day where Christmas cracker will start, the thing will boom. So I don't think it's worth I don't think anything, even relationships or marriage, is worth losing your voice over.
And I think the challenge is that human beings, this is nothing to do with whether you're African, Asian, or whatever, they hate being criticized. People don't like being told sometimes the truth about something that they are doing or not doing, and when they hear it, they block it off and they want to fight, defend, or whatever it is. So I think human beings need to spend more time doing self-reflection and self-audit, because in some cases maybe you're not a good listener. In other cases maybe you are very sarcastic and you're very catty with your mouth. In other cases, maybe you're very aggressive in your tone, and it has to do with upbringing and so many other factors. But once you get into a relationship with someone, you should start studying your partner, seeing where the strengths and weaknesses are. Because remember, it's supposed to be iron sharpeneth iron, which means the two of you are supposed to help each other during your times of weaknesses, and ignite those strengths within yourself so that you can be better in the relationship together. But when you get to a point where the conflict is now continuous and you're not able to find ways to resolve issues, and then people are no longer listening to each other, then you are sad, you're depressed, it starts affecting your health. It can never be a good thing for any relationship.
Repetitive patterns of behavior can bring about a very toxic circle in relationships. It's like Tom and Jerry, for instance, right? Tom and Jerry can never live in peace, because there's always a rat in the house that the cat needs to get, and there's always cheese in the house that the rat needs to eat. So if you eradicate some elements of these triggers, for instance, let's assume a man doesn't listen and he keeps doing or engaging in behaviors that is not really helping the relationship move forward. Let's use cheating, for example, right? This man is cheating. The wife has cried about he's been caught. Oh, stop cheating. And he'll say, oh, he won't do it again, right? And then he does it again and does it again, right? So now you are now doing something that would not necessarily bring joy into the home. It's not going to bring joy to your spouse's heart, And that's where you find that women actually they've weaponized their tongues, where they might not be as physically strong as men, so they use their mouth to speak, to hurl abusive words, to sort of attack. Like we saw a video, I showed you the video about this couple that they were living together. This couple that the husband brought in a child into the house, introducing that child to his wife as his niece, not knowing that child is his child from another woman, right? And this child presumably lived with this couple for years, and then the woman found out that this girl wasn't his niece but his daughter. And the video went viral. And you could see her so riled up in the video. She was really hurt, very upset, and hurling curses at her husband, and also, unfortunately, at the young girl who had nothing to do to meal. I don't think the little girl has anything to do with the husband or her dad telling a lie to his wife. You know, that child just didn't really need to be in that room during the whole intervention, right? So she came across, some schools of thought will say she came across as being quite crazy because she was really irate. The way she reacted was obviously not very savory. It wasn't good because that reaction, there were children around them and even her mom, or there was an elderly woman sitting there. That reaction could have escalated into people getting hurt, from herself to her husband to the children who were, you know, in the living room when this whole confrontation happened. But now, imagine if this woman sits down with you and tells you that this wasn't the first time maybe the husband had engaged in cheating. It's repetitive, you know. So, behavior. Yes. So, what I'm trying to say is, if you eliminate Jerry, Tom wouldn't really have anything to chase around, you know. And it's like when you have a rat in the house, you know that the reason why the rat is coming is because you have scraps of food around, or your kitchen, your bin is not, you know, secured. Once you start having more hygienic practices around your home, and in ensuring that your scraps of food is being disposed of hygienically, or following good hygiene guidelines, you will find out that the Jerry will not even be in your house again. So for me, I think if we eliminate certain things that are triggers, certain things that we know even biblically are not accepted in a marriage. Because, you know, in the name of we all want to get partners, people are getting married for the wrong reasons. First of all, you know, I think society has really put a lot of pressure in people. People are getting married because their friends, uncles, neighbor got married last week. Why is it that it's me? God, when? We should get married because we feel we're ready to get married. You know, you will find a woman or a man who has baggage. Ghana must go everywhere, even coming out of your ears. And you carry your baggage. You don't find a way to audit yourself and work on certain areas that you know would be a compliment to anybody who comes and walks into your life. No, because you just want to go and marry. You carry all that baggage and dump it on a relationship, thinking that relationship is going to fix your problem. It's not.
The truth of the matter is that, like my wife is saying, people are getting married for the wrong reasons. And when you get married for the wrong reasons, you're going to get the wrong results. And if you really want to get into marriage and you have this long list of what your spouse should be, I believe that same long list, evaluate yourself and see if you even meet that criteria as a good wife or as a good husband. Because I think a lot of us, by the time we're getting married to somebody, we don't even meet the minimum criteria of being a good wife or a good husband, because we're still immature in some of the things that we do. But when we do get to that stage and we are ready and we understand that God is the one that actually designed marriage and these are the rules that come with marriage, and you start using those rules as the benchmark of how you measure how you interact with your spouse, because they said that men should love their wives like Christ loved the church. And Jesus died on the cross just for the church. So it means that you're willing to sacrifice your own life for your spouse. You're not going to hurt your flesh. And when men do these things that hurt their wives, they're basically hurting themselves, they're hurting their flesh, they're hurting their children in the process. And it is in that reflection that you'll be able to say, what is the bigger picture here? Am I doing this for my selfish reasons? Or am I trying to make my family happier, make my wife happier, in a way that will please God? And then it becomes that circle, that whatever decision you're making, is it going to please God? Is it going to please your wife? Is it going to please your children? And then eventually, do you think that you will be happy with the decision that you've made? And I think those 4 steps can help you to start, even when you're having a conflict, that, oh, you know what, my wife is the weaker vessel in the home. As a husband, you should lead the family in a way that shows priesthood, right? Then it means that you're not going to be shouting, screaming, you know, throwing tantrums, trying to be aggressive, because that's not how Jesus looked at
His disciples.
His disciples.
Because even when his disciples were saying things or doing things that were not in line with what he wanted them, or he wanted of them, being that he knew he was going to leave them in charge, there were steps that he took he looked at them in a way where, he's reprimanding them in love. It's like some people don't realize that some of these issues is not even coming from your spouse. Some of it is coming from your spouse, but I'm saying that self-auditing first. Let's try. I mean, I think is a very good strategy where try to the four fingers you're pointing. Even if it's one thing, you need to work on yourself. I think if you do invest a bit of time, you will find that you will help yourself. Even if it's for your own mental health, for your own growth as a person. It's like some people don't understand that what they are looking for is not in another person or in a partner. The village people that they are saying is not making them happy is in them.
That's it.
It's in them. I don't want to use him as an example, but I'm going to use him. So a couple of weeks ago there was this, I think about a month ago, this Nigerian artist called Two-Face, right? He's had like a long controversial string of relationships, and he again dramatically exited his marriage, right? Citing so many things that his wife had done, and so basically he didn't even give the public enough time to digest, oh, I'm leaving my wife, I said what I said, whatever. He jumped straight to another woman, right? I think using him as an illustration, not condemning him, but looking at him objectively, like the kind of patterns he's exhibiting. I don't think his problem is in the women he's choosing. I think the problem, he needs help. I think his behavior obviously is displaying a high level of intervention for himself. There's something about him or something about whatever he's experiencing on the inside that hasn't been dealt with. And he keeps going from one partner to the other, thinking that maybe that's where he would find that happiness or that peace. But I think it actually starts with him, and he might need some sort of help, some sort of intervention. There might be something underlying that is making him choose a certain type of relationship that doesn't really have the elements of lasting. And some people do that where rather than just work on yourself, take some time off, take a break and really evaluate, okay, what just happened here? You are already rushing to the Edo state of what is it called, assembly to go and look for where you want to shook your head. So I think relationships come with issues. Adam and Eve, they had issues right from the get-go, where they were told don't touch this, and Madame ended up eating it and trying to pin it on her husband tried to pin it on the serpent. These issues are there. Once you are two people coming together from two different backgrounds, best believe it that you would have these issues. So the first way I think you would help to navigate through these things practically is having a high level of empathy, trying to work on your own self, finding ways to communicate with your spouse. And one of the ways in communicating with your spouse, believe it or not, is by being vulnerable and giving them like a snapshot of who you are. Because they know you from when they met you, but your journey started long before you guys, clapped eyes on each other. So it helps with you giving them that level of vulnerability. How did it make you feel without screaming and shouting? There's a way you communicate with someone that brings about better levels of understanding.
I think it's always that statement of be the change you want to see, right?
Exactly.
Which means, I found that even in our relationship, as challenging as things were, it is when I started becoming intentional about certain things and really trying and keep on trying to do something differently, do something in a way that looks at the bigger picture, in a way that tries to address the underlying issues, you can't expect change if you don't initiate change. You can't keep on doing the same thing, expect a different result. So I think big part of it is self-evaluation. Make the changes within yourself. Your partner will start seeing that, oh, this guy or this lady has started making some changes. And it is even a way, it's in the Bible where it says that your countenance and your behavior can help to change, the perspective of another person, because there's nothing more powerful than a mind that is made up. And, as much as people want other people to change and want them to change, it is only when the person changes their mind themselves that, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to do the right thing, that the real change actually starts happening.
To happen. So I hope this video helped in trying to let you know first that this is a problem that is not unique to you. Everybody has the problem that they're carrying on their back, and marriage is not easy. Everybody who is in marriage, who wants to be honest and real with themselves, will tell you the truth that it's not easy, but it is possible. And I think it's just basically finding two willing hearts, even in your imperfections, going through these issues one day at a time, because the issues will come. Even when people that are 40 years in marriage will tell you that they still have issues, or they had issues, or they had seasons in their marriage where they went through this and they came out of it. Some people cannot even tell you those stories because it didn't last that long. So it's not about comparing your marriage with another marriage or with somebody else. It's about looking at the uniqueness of your own situation and finding unique ways, developing unique skills to deal with those things. And one of the skills that I have found helped us in our marriage is the skill of harnessing the word of God practically in your marriage, in your heart, in your life, using the word of God as a reminder. Somebody once told me that, if you are a certain way, then I won't listen to you when you talk about the word of God. And I said to that person that the person is the biggest hypocrite, because it doesn't matter who the word of God comes from. The word of God is always the truth. Even if somebody says it, some people will be like, maybe their spouse is talking about the word of God and the person is still repeating that pattern of behavior. Take it to the altar of God. There's not much you can do in that kind of situation, but the word of God is still the word of God. Is the same word that was today, tomorrow, next year, and forever. So wherever it's coming from, if it's a word of truth, it will always still be a word of truth. So I hope this helps.
And I think the truth of the matter is that conflict will always come to you, but you need to build a skill set. You need to be intentional about how you face that conflict, not for escalation, but for de-escalation, not for war, but for peace. And try as much as possible to have the countenance of Jesus Christ, which is doing everything to try and make sure that you sacrifice everything you have for your spouse, because this marriage thing is about self-service, self-sacrifice, being able to be obedient to God in that stage and every stage of the marriage. And you will always learn something and grow as you are interacting and having these conversations with your spouse.
Absolutely. So it's not every day that they do Papa Obina, Papa Obina, Papa Obina, Papa Obina. You will kill me today. Papa Obina, don't fight. Take it to God. Take it to the altar.
Pray to
the
God.
Altar still works. The altar still is the power of God. The altar is still the presence of God. So I hope this video helps.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.